And welcome to our special WPIAL basketball playoff edition of Upon Further Review. My name is John Enrietto. I'm the sports editor of the Butler Eagle, flanked on my left by sports writer Mike Kilroy, on my right by sports writer Derek Pida. And we are sponsored for this basketball program by Conlon Parker and Troy Allen Chevrolet Buick GMC. And gentlemen, we have 12 teams in just 12 Butler County teams alone in the WPIAL playoffs. Mike, that's a high number for us.
Well, yeah, I think it's everyone except for one team. It seems like when the class has expanded, we're going to see more of this because there's more opportunities for teams to make the playoffs. There's more chance to hit the reset button, go into the playoffs 0-0 to see what happens. You know, I've heard people say it's watered down. I've heard people say it gives teams opportunities. You know, whatever side of the fence you're on, this is what we have. We have 12 teams. We have a lot to talk about. So let's get to it.
So we'll get to it. And Derek, we're going to start off here with Class 6A boys. A couple local teams involved. Butler Golden Tornado, a tremendous regular season, 17-4. They drew the number 5 seed, the highest seed, and during Matt Clement's coaching tenure at Butler. And they play a team from your neck of the woods, Falcons of Connellsville, with an 8-14 record. How do you feel about the Butler Connellsville matchup?
Not just my neck of the woods, my alma mater.
Your alma mater as well, then.
I like.
No bias, please. No bias.
No bias.
Okay.
I do want to point out that Connellsville has an 8-14 record. They do have 2 kids averaging quite a few points. Jalen Rogers is averaging 17 points a game. He is a 6'2 forward for the Falcons, and Josh Mayer is averaging 16 points a game. He's a 6'6 forward. So Butler's going to have some size to deal with Connellsville, but I look at that record, 8-14. Connellsville did give Latrobe a run for their money, and Latrobe's really good. I think they're the 2 seed.
They lost by one point to Latrobe about in late January.
Right, in late January, and that was just a couple weeks ago. But the fact for me remains that Connellsville's still 2-7 in their last 9 games. Their 2 wins in that time are against a bad Norwin team and against a really mediocre Albert Gallatin team. So I like the fact that Connellsville has some guys that might be able to make this a game, but Butler's got Ethan Morton, and I don't think Connellsville's going to have an answer for him.
Yeah. Connellsville, they just snapped a 4-game losing streak. They beat Albert Gallatin in their last game, 53-42, a relatively low-scoring contest. And you mentioned Jason Mayer, who's 6'6". Mike Connellsville also has a center who's 6'8", Brady Lizza. I don't know how much he played. I'm assuming he's a 6'8 senior. I'm assuming he plays a lot. And Butler, to me, I've seen Butler play a lot this year. To me, the 2 bugaboos has been general defense and rebounding. Butler plays a lot of 2-3 zone, which is a tough defense to rebound out of. Can rebounding be an issue for them?
I don't think it's going to be an issue because of 2 words, Ethan Morton. Morton can pick up slack. He can make everyone. He makes everyone around him better. I just don't think Connellsville has the firepower to stick with Butler. You know, Butler and Upper St. Clair, the 4-5 seed, they're going to end up playing anyway.
Yeah, the winner of this game gets Upper St. Clair.
So,
right.
I don't think the 4-5 seed really matters much. I think it might be a benefit to Butler because they get to play a game where Upper St. Clair is the seed.
Yeah, very true.
So if I was Matt Clement and Butler, I would be kind of. Obviously, you want to get the highest seed you can get, but I wouldn't be too upset that I'm the 5th seed. And I don't think they're going to have too much of a problem with Connellsville. Obviously, like you said, their defense at times has been lax and has given up points, and rebounding has been an issue just because of the style of play that they play. They have a lot of quick guards, shooting guards, but they have Ethan Morton.
Plus,
first round of the playoffs, Ethan Morton's going to equal a victory 99 times out of 100.
Yeah. Plus, Butler's averaging 77 points per game. There's a reason for that. If you play them, you can pick your poison most. You can play them man to man and take away the 3-point shooters, and good luck guarding Morton man to man. Or you could Pine Mission tried that and he dropped 51 on him.
Yeah.
Or you can sit back in the zone and hope Butler's 3-point shooters miss. So that's basically what it comes down to.
I'll make a prediction. Morton's going to have a triple-double.
Triple-double?
Normally that's a...
He's had a few of those this year.
Yeah, normally that's an outlandish prediction, but not for Ethan Morton because he does it almost routinely now.
If Connellsville can find a way to keep this game close into the second half, Morton's going to take over. He's going to take over. If they can find, I'm not even saying it's going to be close. If it is, he'll take over.
To me, Carnival's the only chance to win this game, and I'm not saying that they can't do it, but they need to keep this game in the 50s. If this game gets up into the 70s, Butler's going to win.
Good night,
chance.
Yeah.
Good night, Falcons.
Yeah. Well, another local team.
Scored 50.
Yeah.
So.
Another local team in boys 6A, Seneca Valley. They finished with a winning record, won their last game. They're 11-10. They take on 15-7 Fox Chapel. That's Tuesday night at 8 at North Allegheny. Derek, you follow the Raiders on a fairly regular basis. What's your take on this one?
Falcons, sorry, it's the Raiders. I got Collinsville.
Yeah, I know you do.
Seneca Valley making the WPIAL playoffs in their first year under head coach Kevin Trost. I don't like Seneca Valley's chances entering the playoffs. They've been going back and forth. They ended the regular season with a buzzer beater to beat Norwin. Norwin's a bad team. They got one section where they are not a good team.
Yep.
They did play Fox Chapel earlier this season, and Fox Chapel beat them by 7. I don't know how much we can take from that. That was back in, I think, mid-December, so almost 2 months ago. If Seneca Valley's going to win, you got to. I mean, they got size with Marcus White. The kid's 6'8". I mean, he's
a big 6'8", too.
He's a big 6'8". They got size. Mason Bush, who last year was kind of a role player off the bench, averaged like 3 or 4 points a game. He's scoring in double figures this year. Zach Zajax, who hit the winning shot against Norwin the other night, he's a more than capable point guard. But I look at Seneca Valley's season. They've lost 10 games this year, and 5 of those losses are by at least 17 points. Now, I know 2 of those are against Pine Richland, but they also lost by that many points to North Allegheny both times. And North Allegheny's good, but they're not great. And they also lost by that many points to Highlands, which isn't even a Class 6A team. So I guess a lot of it comes down to matchups. Obviously, Pine Richland's a bad matchup for Seneca Valley. I guess I didn't see them play North Allegheny this year, but North Allegheny spanked them twice. So I guess a lot of it comes down to the individual matchups on the court for Seneca Valley against Fox Chapel. Like I said, Fox Chapel won the earlier meeting by 7. But if I had to go either way, or I don't like the way Seneca Valley's entering the playoffs, I'd probably have to go with Fox Chapel.
See, I'm the opposite. I like the way they're entering the playoffs. I saw them against Norman. Norman played a really good game against Seneca. Seneca found a way to win one. Seneca's actually played well the last couple of weeks. They took Butler to the brink.
They did.
And they've won 2 in a row heading into the playoffs. Coach Trost said he loves the way they're playing right now. So I think they have a shot at Fox Chapel. I just think they're starting to mesh a little bit. They're not a typical team. Zach Zajax is not a typical point guard. He's tall and lanky. Marcus Mite's not a typical post player. He's big, but he's a little bit rough around the edges, and he can shoot a little bit from mid range. So I think Seneca could give Fox Chapel a problem.
I think Seneca Valley, I think they're 50-50. I think this is one of the most competitive matchups in the 6A bracket to start the tournament. I think their hopes simply ride on Mason Bush. If he has a big game, Seneca wins. If he has a so-so to average game, Seneca loses. That's what I think it comes down to. We will move on to 6A girls. And again, it's kind of a different feel here. There's only 2 sections in WPIAL Class 6A in the girls' side, so only 8 teams make the playoffs. So basically, we're starting off here with second-round games.
Yeah.
The quarterfinals start off this tournament. Bethel Park 20-2. Of course, they're coached by former Butler coach John Burke from years back, and they're going up against Seneca Valley under now first-year coach Todd Schofield, although he's coached them in previous years.
2 separate times now.
Yep. 15-7 Seneca, 20-2 Bethel Park. Do the Raiders have a crack at the upset?
I think they do because both teams have a long layoff.
They do.
We talk about playoffs hitting the reset button. This is really like hitting the reset button. This is the second season. They have 10 days, more than 10 days, almost 2 weeks.
Yeah. They don't play until we're doing this show on a Wednesday. They play a week from Friday.
Yeah, they play. So that's a long layoff. That's a lot of time to sit around for Bethel Park. It's a lot of time to get ready for Bethel Park if you're Seneca. Still, though, I believe in John Burke and Bethel Park. I think Bethel Park's gonna beat Seneca, but I think it's going to be a tight game. I think Seneca can play with them.
Derek, one feather in Bethel Park's cap is they knocked off North Catholic recently, and that's no small task, no matter what division of basketball you play in to beat that team. One thing about Bethel, they have an outstanding senior point guard. Todd Schofield didn't give me the player's name, but he said they probably have the best sophomore in the WPIAL in terms of girls basketball. He really likes the way Bethel plays defense, and admitted this is a major challenge for his team. What's your take on this one?
You said he likes the way they play defense. Bethel Park's given up 39 points a game, even in girls, which obviously, and in most cases, girls basketball is lower scoring than boys. Just kind of, obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but
not so much in 6A though. Not so much in 6A.
Well, Bethel Park's given up less than 40, so
right.
they're doing something.
That's outstanding. Yeah.
And there are only 2 losses this year: Bethel Park and Peters Township, and Peters Township is the top seed in 6A.
They're undefeated, aren't they?
I believe they're undefeated.
They're undefeated. Yeah.
So Seneca Valley at times this year has had trouble scoring points. They have the ability. They got a big girl inside with Maddie Karcha, who's able to put up a double-double. She did recently against Butler. Gretchen Koken, and their best player is McKenna Gross, the point guard. They have had trouble scoring points this year, especially against the better teams, and obviously Bethel Park's one of the better teams, and they're giving up less than 40 a game. So I think Seneca Valley's got their work cut out for them. They obviously have a shot. I mean, they got a decent record, 15-7, but as you said, we are familiar with Jonna Burke, former Butler coach. She's done a great job at Bethel Park over the last nearly 2 decades. So I like the Blackhawks in this one, but hey, Seneca Valley, Todd Schofield's first year back, got them in the playoffs, and they got the 3rd spot in that section, which is something they couldn't do before. They were always 4th.
That's true.
They were always 4th, and they got to this time.
But you know what though, this year, and Todd Schofield pointed this out. I talked to him last night for our playoff bracket story in today's Butler Eagle, and he said it really doesn't matter because look at what they have to do for Seneca Valley to win the WPIAL. They're going to have to go through Bethel Park, then more than likely Peters Township, and then either North Allegheny or Norman in the final. That's quite a gambit. You have to run through to win a championship.
Good luck.
But, yeah, good luck with that one.
How about NA and Norwin being on the same side of the bracket?
Yeah.
Look at their combined record. I think they have 2 losses between them.
Yep, in Norman beat
That's
that,
during
the regular season. Yeah.
That just shows you how stacked this bracket is when the 2 teams with combined 2 losses are on the same side of the bracket.
And one other note on that Seneca Valley game, Mike, you'll appreciate this. Todd Schofield wanted to find a scrimmage against a team that plays gritty, that plays hard-nosed, that plays great defense. He found Slippery Rock. And that's going to
help Slippery Rock for the District 10 playoffs.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Because Slippery Rock will give them everything they have.
Well, let's move on to Class 5A boys. And we have the March Planets not playing the first round because, not surprisingly, they drew the number 1 seed. Derek, outstanding 21-1 record for the Planets. Their only loss was a team from Los Angeles, California. No one around here is beating them. Do you see them? I know being the top seed, I guess they're favored to win the WPIAL. Do you see them repeating back-to-back champs?
I hate to say this, but
No.
I think my crystal ball is filled with fog most of the time, but I'm
As is your brain.
I'm predicting right now that the championship game is going to be Penn Hills against Mars, and I think Penn Hills is going to pull it out. Penn Hills is actually
another great team for sure.
Penn Hills won 6A last year. Now they dropped down to 5A.
They did.
I think both teams are primed to get there. They're obviously going to have some tough games to get to the championship game. I see Mars coming in from this side, Penn Hills meeting in the championship game, and got Penn Hills winning. But what a great season by Mars. I mean, they lose one of, to date at least, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, basketball player in Butler County history.
Sure.
Robbie Carmody.
Yeah.
They lose him. They also lose who Rob Carmody, the head coach of Mars, termed the best defensive player he's ever coached, Kate Hetzler. They lose him.
Yep.
They come back this year, as you said, their only losses to a team that's 3,000 miles away. Great job by Carmody and the players. Michael Carmody stepped up. He used to be known as Robbie's little brother. Now he's Michael Carmody. He's averaging a double-double. He's getting all kind of recruiting interest in football, and he's proven to be a pretty good basketball player.
Mike, just look at the players. Derek just mentioned a couple of them, but the players that Morris has lost in recent years. John Costello, who's a 1,000-point scorer now at Shippensburg, played for them a couple of years back. And yet this program continues to not only win, but dominate.
Yeah, that's the key word. It's a program now. It's not just a team. And Rob Carmody has mentioned that over and over again, that it took that long to build a program. Now they have a program in place where guys come, they excel, they leave, other guys come behind them, excel. It's a pipeline now. It's a conveyor belt of talent. That's why I think Marzu will get to the final. And I agree with Derek. They're going to end up probably meeting Penn Hills, but to me, that's a coin flip. That would be a heck of a game. Mars Penn Hills, March 1st at 9 o'clock at the Peterson Event Center. I hope I get that game.
Yeah, really
that's going to be a great one.
Yeah, really looking at their side of the bracket. All due respect to Shaler, they play the winner of McKeesport Shaler on Friday, February the 22nd.
And all I did was win one game there in the state playoffs.
Yeah, the Woodland Hills, West Allegheny, Shore Valley, Albert Gallatin. I just don't see Mars being derailed until the finals at the earliest. I just don't see it happening. Let's move over here to 5A girls, where we have not the defending WPIAL champion, but the defending state champion in Mars Planets. Mars did win their section this year. I think they go third place. I think second or third. What did they finish? I could probably find that, but
second.
But anyway, they 17.
They didn't win their section. I know that.
Yeah, they're 17-5 though on the season. They play Woodland Hills, which is 12-10. They play at 8 o'clock on Tuesday. Mike, we'll start with you on this one. Do you see a run in the Lady Planets here?
I wish I could say yes, but I think their run's gonna. I think they're gonna beat Woodland Hills, but the run's gonna end against Oakland Catholic. I'm afraid in the game, the real first. I guess that would be the second round. Yeah, because Oakland Catholic has a bye. I just don't see them making a long run. They still have a heck of a team, heck of a lot of talent, but they really miss Lauren Wasselson, who went on to Xavier.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They really miss her. She was that extra big gun that they lack this year. Ty Johnson's been great. Bella Pelea has been pretty consistently good, too great, but they don't have that third stud that they had last year with Wasselson.
Yeah, Mars, by the way, did finish third in this section this year. Just to clarify that, Gateway won that section, and
I don't think Mars has played particularly well either down the stretch. So I think that's an issue too that they're going to have to rectify.
Yeah, Derek, the Oakland Catholic, who looms for Mars, should they get by Woodland Hills in this first game Tuesday. Oakland Catholic's 19-3, and they've been a nemesis for the Planets, have they not?
2 years ago, they beat Mars in the WPIAL and state playoffs. Last year, they knocked them out of the WPIAL playoff in the semifinals. And I find it ironic that Mars has had this trouble with this particular private school, Oakland Catholic, but then Oakland Catholic gets knocked out of the state playoffs last year. Not by Mars, they lost to somebody else, and Mars ends up beating a Catholic school in the state semifinal and the state final. So I've talked to Dana Petruska about this. She said it's in their heads. It's literally in their heads. She told me this after last year's WPIAL semifinal loss. It's just one of those teams that her girls go up against and just think that, the odds are so stacked against them that they all have to play like an incredible game to win. And now they have to win a game to get to that point. They have to beat Woodland Hills. But as Mike said, I think they'll take care of Woodland Hills.
I do too.
But then Oakland Catholic's lurking. They've already got a bye. They're sitting basically in the next round waiting for that winner of that Mars Woodland Hills game. And
again, that's a long layoff for Oakland Catholic.
It is a long layoff.
So they could be had maybe early if you're Mars, but it's a long layoff.
Mike mentioned Lauren Wasselson. She was obviously a really good offensive player, but she contributed so much on defense as well because of her length. She's 6 foot tall, and they just haven't been able to replace her loss to graduation on either end of the floor. They're still a good team. What are they, 17-4, 17-5?
17-5, yeah.
Still a good team. I just don't see them making a run like they did last year.
Well, let's slide it on to Class 4A boys, where we have a couple of teams involved here. We'll start out with worst to first, Knock Knights, finishing worst in their section in Class 5A last year. They are co-champions of their section in Class 4A this year. Knock at 17-5 faces a team below 500, South Park 10-12. These two teams meet Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. I should say Wednesday night, February the 20th, 8 o'clock at Fox Chapel. Mike, we'll start with you on this one. Do you expect Knox to handle South Park?
Oh yeah, Knox one of the most fun teams to watch because when they're hitting from the outside, they can put points up like no one else in the WPIAL. But then again, when those threes aren't falling, they tend to struggle. But I don't see them struggling against South Park. What a great story!
It is a great
team
story.
that struggled last year. Even coming into this year, I don't think a lot of people thought they would be where they're at, and here they are. One of the top 4 seeds, I guess you would say, or one of the top seeds in the bracket. And I'm curious to see how far they can go. Like I said, if they're shooting well and they're playing good defense, which Coach McNabb preaches, I think they could make a run. But again, when you rely as heavily on the 3-pointer as they do at times, you just never know. So,
Yeah, what impresses me about Knox is Julian Sanks is the only senior starter. The other 4 starters are juniors, and their top two players off the bench are also juniors. So the future looks bright for the Knights as well. They do, and you're right. Ryan Lang, the freshman, who comes off the bench for them as well. Derek, if they beat South Park, Quaker Valley wins for them. Quaker Valley is the 3rd seed for a 18-3 record. But let's first things first. Your thoughts on the Knox South Park matchup?
I like Knock in this game. The thing that impresses me about Knock is all 5 of them. I mean, you got Scott Frazier's leading them with 17.5 points a game. But all 4 of the other starters, you got Brady McKee, you got Julian Sanks, Jake Scheidt, and Jared Schreckengoss. All those guys are capable of going out and scoring 15-plus points in a single game. And as you mentioned, Ryan Lang, he's a freshman guard. All 3 games I've covered a Knock this year, I covered them against Freeport both times and against Highlands. All 3 of those games, he came off the bench and contributed, not just minutes, but points. So, I like the fact that they've got a reliable kid off the bench. Not the only kid. They have other kids come off the bench for him. But as far as points go, Ryan Lang, I got to believe he's leading them in points off the bench. Very strong starting 5. And South Park's below 500. I just like the story of Knock, but I also like this matchup for them. I don't think they're going to have a problem with South Park. And as you said, they get to that next round against Quaker Valley, who they already lost to this year. So that's where I think that's where they're going to get their first big test against the Quakers.
I would agree. And, of course, we have another team in 4A boys, the Yellow Jackets of Freeport High School. They're 11-9 on the year. They've been somewhat faded down the stretch. They face Ringgold 13-8. And that game will be played on February the 20th, 8 o'clock at Gateway High School. Derek, we'll go right back to you on this game. You said Yellow Jackets, they struggled a little bit down the stretch. What's your take on this matchup?
I think this is a toss-up for me just because both teams have struggled. Ringgold's lost 5 of their last 6 games.
They have.
Freeport started the season off with a bang, and they've kind of cooled off. One interesting thing I did find out about Freeport looking at their schedule, they won 11 games this year. Only 2 of those wins have come against teams with winning records. Apollo Ridge and Darien, both of those games came back early in the season. Mm-hmm. So all their wins since then have come against mostly bad to mediocre teams. But Ringgold, as I said, it's not like they're entering the playoffs on a good note. They've lost 5 of 6. So I think this is a coin flip. I think a lot of these games come down to matchups on the court. If Jalen Brown, the guard for Freeport, can take over that game, I like Freeport's chances. If he's unable to do it, I'd go with Ringgold.
Jalen Brown needs to take this game over. Mike, the winner of this game, as a reward to get top seed Newcastle in the next round. What are your thoughts?
To me, this Freeport Ringgold game is the Mojo Bowl. Both teams are trying to get their mojo back.
Yeah, they are.
They're going to need every bit of mojo they can get. Whoever wins this game going up against Newcastle. So, Freeport has not played well down the stretch. Coaches always like to play their best basketball in the last couple weeks of the season. Sure. Freeport's not there. Neither is Ringgold. So that game is going to be an intriguing game. I agree with Derek. It's going to be a coin flip. But like you said, the rewards for winning that game is Newcastle. And unfortunately, I think that's where the road ends for whoever wins that game.
Yeah, I do like Freeport to defeat Ringgold, but I don't like the chances against Newcastle. But here's
a big roadblock.
But here's the plus, though. When you win one of these early matchups that are kind of a 50-50 proposition, if you can get to where you're playing a top seed and you lose that top seed, maybe they can carry you back in. You don't really know, so that's a possibility. 4A girls, we have one team there, but no, I'm sorry, we have three teams there. I was thinking 3A instead of 4A. Start out with North Catholic girls, 19-3, number 1 seed. Lost recently at Butler Park. They also lost to Peters Township during the season. So the only teams they've lost to have been top tier teams. Mike, we'll start with you on North Catholic. Do you see the Trojans running to a title?
Yeah, it would be a major upset, I think, if they don't at least get to the final, let alone win it. They're the most complete team in this bracket. They might be the most complete team that we have, boy or girl team, in the county. They can hurt you in so many different ways. Kylie Lewandowski, Butler, she's been the key to their run last year, and she's going to be the key to their run this year. Tess Myers, we knew about her all when she was a freshman. Mm-hmm. Danny Short, as a senior, she does the dirty work inside. She gets a lot of rebounds, scores about 10 points a game. She ended up with 1,000 points just because she's been so consistent over her career. And North Catholic's played so many games that she piled up points and got to 1,000. North Catholic's, I think, is just going to run the table. I don't see anyone really challenging them even in this bracket all the way through. So I think the Trojanettes are going to be ringing the bell.
Yeah, there you go. Derek, the success of North Catholic aside, you look at Freeport, which is an intersection. They finished second to North Catholic, and I think, really, in my opinion, because of North Catholic's success, Freeport has been a bit of an under-the-radar type of team this year. They're sitting at 18-4. 2 of those losses are to North Catholic. Freeport has Quaker Valley 12-9. They play Monday at 6:30 at North Allegheny. I'm projecting this out to possibly a North Catholic Freeport semifinal. What do you think about that?
It very well could happen. They played them twice this year because, as you said, they're in the same section. The one game, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, Freeport was actually winning at halftime.
Freeport was up at halftime, and then North Catholic
blew them
away in the second half. I scored 41-14, I believe.
And the first game was a lot closer than most North Catholic games are. So Fred Soilis down at Freeport, I know, they're kind of led by Sydney Szymanski, but they got other players, the Clark sisters, Madeline, Samantha. They got the girl that went to Kiski last year, Harley Holloway. She's playing really well for them. As you said, when you're in a section with a team that's as dominant as North Catholic, you don't get much attention. But I'll tell you what, it might take North Catholic to knock Freeport out of this tournament. That's how good Freeport.
Oh, they are very good, and they're also very experienced. The bulk of this team started for them last year and got to the playoffs.
Of all these teams, I think the one team that has a shot at North Catholic is Freeport.
Yeah, I'd
so that semifinal is going to be a big game for North Catholic and Freeport, for that matter. I like this. I think we might see a Freeport knock matchup in the.
Well, I was going to say that. Well, that would take an upset. Let's talk about. Let's talk about the knock girls. They're 9-13. They took on Elizabeth Forward, 15-7. That game Monday at 6:30 at Mount Lebanon. Mike, give me your reasoning. You can see knock.
I like knock. Knock is a very talented young team, and I think when you have
they're a scrappy bunch. I'll tell you that.
When you have a young team going into playoffs, one of two things can happen. They can be completely deer in headlights and get blown out, or what I think might happen with Knock, they don't know any better. They might go into the playoffs thinking, "Hey, what do we have to lose? We're not supposed to win this game. Let's just go out and play," and that's when upsets happen. So I think I'm leaning toward that scenario more than deer in headlights scenario because. They have a number of players who have played a lot of basketball over their careers, not just in high school. So I don't think they're going to be intimidated going into the playoffs, even with a young team. And I really love the job that Coach Andresi's done there with this young team. I don't think anyone thought it would even make the playoffs, let alone be in a position to maybe win a playoff game and get a rematch with Freeport.
I don't think they'll be intimidated, but I just think Elizabeth Ford has too much in terms of scoring points. I don't know if Knock can score with that team. Derek, what's your take on Knock? Sorry, but just tell me about how we see it. What's your take on Knock Elizabeth Forward?
I think, first of all, it's a great, we just recently talked about the great story that Knock boys are. One section win last year. Now they're back in the playoffs, tied for a section title this year. How about Knock girls? It wasn't that long ago, 5-6 years ago, when we were taking scores from Knock where they were scoring 15 points a game. Now they're in the playoffs, and regardless if they win or lose, they're certainly there. They deserve to be there. I don't like. I mean, just looking at the records, 9-13 for Knox, 15-7 for Elizabeth Ford, and the fact that Knox lost 6 of their last 7 games. I don't like that scenario for Knox, but I certainly am not going to sit here and say they can't win. They can certainly win, but if you want my pick, I'm picking forward. Listen,
Okay. Okay.
I'm going forward.
You're going forward. Forward. Okay. Let's drop down. Let's drop down to Class 3A boys. Getting down to cases here. North Catholic, 18-4, and Mike, this has been a dominant North Catholic team. They're averaging 76 points a game, only giving up 55. They ended up actually sharing a section title with Seton LaSalle. I'm sure that's one of their losses this year. But your thoughts on North Catholic? We haven't heard much from them this year for being a local team.
We haven't heard anything from them.
No, but they are 18-4. They're playing a Valley team that's only 8-10. That game is Saturday at 3 down at Fox Chapel.
Just like we talked about the North Catholic girls, I think the North Catholic boys are on a march toward the WPIAL final. Like you said, we don't. Information is a little bit sparse.
It is
to the Trojans
non-existent
this year, but through Twitter, I catch pieces here and there, and they're a very explosive team. And explosive teams in the WPIAL playoffs tend to fare well. Usually you say defense wins championships, but it seems like to me in the WPIAL playoffs, a team that can go on explosive runs, maybe you're down by 4 and you go on a quick 10 run. Those are the teams that tend to get the furthest. Because the playoffs are such an emotional, charged atmosphere in the WPIAL playoffs. So that's why I think North Catholic, just like the North Catholic girls are on a collision course with a WPIAL championship.
Well, as far as Class 3A boys and up, the only team that's averaging more points per game than North Catholic is Pine Mitchell.
Wow.
So that shows you where North Catholic's at. So they play Valley 3 o'clock Saturday at
That could be
Fox Chapel.
a bloodbath.
You look at the leaders for North Catholic, Isaac DeGregorio, who's the coach's son,
Right.
and Jackson Paschal. They're both averaging combined 36 points a game, but the rest of the team's averaging 40. So it's not like they're two guys. They've got the rest of their team from number 3 scorer on down is averaging 40 points a game because they're averaging 76. That's a lot of points.
Oh, yeah,
That's a lot of
absolutely. One other WPIAL playoff game we have to talk about. This is Class 2A boys, and hats off to Summit Academy.
Yeah.
I mean, just by the very nature of their school, they have students there for very rarely more than one season, and they put together a winning year. They're 10-9. They've faded down the stretch somewhat, but they play at noon Saturday at Fox Chapel, and they play Shenango, which is only 10-12. So, Derek, do you give the Knights a shot at winning the first playoff game?
I do. I mean, I think this game is a lot like the Freeport boys game where I said they're playing, I believe, Ringgold, where both teams are kind of like iffy. I mean, they've got Summit County's got a good section record. They're 9-5, but overall they're only 10-9, and they started off really well this year.
They did.
But at the same time, Shenango, as you said, they're only 10-12. So I think a lot of this is going to come down to the individual matchups. If the guys who have had big games for Summit this year, Tacoma Askew's one of them. He's had some big games for them. If they can get their top scorers this year in a groove and get up around between 15 and 20 points for those guys, I like Summit. I don't think they're going to go for the playoffs, but I think they could win this game. They could definitely win this game.
Well, once again, Mike, they're in a similar situation to one of the other teams. Yeah, if Summit Academy wins, they're rewarded. They played top seeded.
It's another mojo.
Our Lady of Sacred Heart, right? So see how this goes.
Summit's trying to get back to what they were doing earlier in the season when they had that great start. I think they'll beat Shenango, but again, their reward is, hey, we get the number 1 seed in Olsh, and then that'll be it for the Knights. But heck of a season for them. Last year they struggled and didn't do well. I think they only won a handful of games. This year they came out with a new coach. I talked to him before the season. He was very optimistic about the season, and it's proved to be right. They had overall a pretty good season. I'm sure they would have loved to finish stronger than they did, but yeah, they're in the playoffs. They have a shot just like everybody else in the bracket. This really all you can ask for any team is just to get into the playoffs and then roll the dice and see what happens.
Roll the dice.
Okay. Okay, time to have a little fun here. We've gone through our local matchups. Now let's look at the overall brackets. And we will start out with 6A boys. And Derek, I'm going to start with you. Give me the title game and give me the champion. Class 6A boys.
Class 6A boys. Well, I got my bracket here somewhere. Here it is. All right, I got Pine. I'll tell you this right now. I got Pine Richland winning.
Okay, who are they beating?
I hate to take the easy way out here, but I'm gonna go 1 versus 2. I'm gonna say they beat Latrobe.
He's going chalk.
Mike, give me a matchup. Give me a winner.
I go Pine Richland and Mount Lebanon. And Pine Richland wins.
I'm going Pine Richland and Mount Lebanon upsets Pine Richland in the 6A title game. That's not
Boy, Jeff Ackerman would not like to hear that.
No, he would not. Okay, 6A girls. It's only an 18 bracket, Mike. We'll start with you on this one. Give me a matchup and give me a champion.
Let's say NA versus, I'm going to say Bethel Park.
Ooh.
Let's say Bethel Park.
They could knock off unbeaten Peters at some point.
Yeah, I think they'll knock off unbeaten Peter. Just for fun's sake, I'm going to say Bethel Park knocks off Peters and NA wins.
I'll go second on this one. I'm going to go North Allegheny winning the whole thing also, but I think it's going to be chalk. I think it's going to be NA over Peters Township. Derek?
Bethel Park, if they both make the semifinal, which I think they will, Bethel Park and Peters Township, that would be Bethel Park's 3rd game this year against Peters Township, and I think they finally
Think they find a way to beat them?
So Bethel Park in the
crazy.
championship game. The other semifinal, I have Norwin beating North Allegheny, and in the final, Norwin beating Bethel Park.
I don't.
Wow, that's okay.
I'm going to
Go with the Norman
I'll go
Knights.
with Derek. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, so you're backing down. You're going with Derek.
I'm going with Norwin. I think Norwin beat NA this year. I think Norwin's every bit as good as NA. But I'll stick with NA. NA's NA.
We have a salesman over here. He's selling you on this.
Well, he made a lot of sense. That was a pretty good breakdown.
I know. It's
NA Bethel Park. Though.
It's news when Derek makes sense. I get that. But, all right. Anyway, let's go to 5A boys. We got the top seeded Mars Planets. Derek, we'll throw it to you here. I know you're a big Mars guy in terms of your beat and everything, but give me a matchup. Give me a champion.
I actually mentioned this earlier. I think it's going to be Penn Hills against Mars, and Penn Hills
You did mention
winning,
this.
But obviously, I mean, the top 6 teams in the district get to the state playoffs. So I mean, Mars can make a run at states too. But I don't think they're going to win the title game this year. But whoever covers, if this is the title game for us in 5A, if we have Mars in it playing Penn Hills, whoever covers it's going to be in for a treat because I think it'd be a great game. So I have Penn Hills winning.
I got the Battle of Outer Space, Mars versus Moon. I have Mars defending. Mars defending.
Well, I already mentioned this in my breakdown about Mars. It's going to be Mars Penn Hills. Those two teams are definitely on a collision course, and I'm going to lobby right now to get that game. I want that game.
No respect for Moon. You guys don't respect the Moon. I'm telling you.
I want
No
to be
respect
at
for Moon.
Peterson Defense Center on March 1st.
You're lobbying. You want that late night action there. Huh?
5A girls now?
Yep, we're going to 5A girls, and I guess I'll start the ball rolling on 5A girls. This is tough to me. I mean, 5A girls, it's a very tough bracket. I mean, I see Gateway's girls knocking off Oakland Catholic, so I'm going to say Gateway goes to the finals, and I will say they lose to Char Valley. So the top seed Char Valley carries through and wins it. Derek?
I hate to agree with you, but that's what I got. Gateway, their one section loss this year was earlier this year, back in, I think it was before Christmas in mid-December to Mars. They came back about 3 weeks later, beat Mars, and they finished the section slate with just 1 loss. That's Gateway. But Chartiers Valley's 22-0. They're only giving up. They're outscoring their opponents on average 30 points a game by 30 points a game. So I like Chartiers Valley to beat Gateway in the final.
You know what? That's the one thing that does worry me about Char Valley and we mentioned Peters Township earlier. When you're undefeated going into this tournament, it makes me nervous because you're due to lose. You're due to lose a game. I mean, it's so hard to roll all the way through a postseason and not lose. But
The Miami Dolphins will not be popping that champagne.
that's exactly right. Mike, what's your pick in 5A girls?
That's precisely why I think Penn Hills is going to beat.
They could.
It's going to be Penn Hills Oakland Catholic, and I think Penn Hills is going to win the whole thing.
Penn Hills wins it? Okay. Let's go to, by the way, why do you hate degrees? Not the 8 degrees.
Keep going. No, you don't want to talk about that.
Okay, all right. Okay, 4A boys. Mike, we'll start with you on this one. 4A boys, give me your final, give me your champion.
Oh, let's see. Newcastle and Ambridge. The Newcastle winner.
The top seed wins it. Derek?
Newcastle's the defending Whitfield champion. I mean, they could probably fill up an entire trophy case up at that school with just their boys basketball trophies. This is, I mean, I'm not. They could certainly lose. Somebody could upset them. But for me, just trying to pick this bracket right now, I'm going to go with Newcastle. It's a pretty easy pick for me, and I think they beat Quaker Valley in the final.
I have the same matchup, but a different result. I think Quaker Valley's a real deal. I think Quaker Valley, as the third seed, comes back and upsets Newcastle in the 4A boys.
I knew you were a Quaker heart.
There you go. 4A girls. Does anyone dare go against the Trojanettes? I'll start off with this one, and I am not going to go against the Trojanettes. North Catholic over Central Valley. I'm going 1 seed over 2 seed in the finals. Mike?
North Catholic, and again, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, pick one anyway. Who are they going to be?
Okay, I'll pick. I want to pick like one of these.
One of the first round games?
One of the first round teams, yeah.
So,
we haven't done that yet.
Sophomore.
Yeah, that's Southmoreland, though. No, I'll go with Blackhawk.
okay.
That's my pick too. North Catholic Blackhawk. Remember last
Trojanettes
year?
sweep. Yeah.
Last year they needed a buzzer beater to beat Beaver.
They did. They did it.
But this year they roll. They roll.
Yeah, they roll this year. No one's going to get close to them this year.
3A boys. This is there's a lot of good teams in 3A. They're really, to me, this is very difficult to pick this from. But I'll start it off. I'm going to go with I think Seton LaSalle gets to the finals, but I think they lose there to the Quips of Aliquippa. That's my pick. Derek, what about you?
Lincoln Park over North Catholic in the final. Lincoln Park.
North Catholic going to the finals.
Lincoln Park's the defending champion.
They are.
And at that point, at least in the title game, you can't argue, well, they're a private school because both schools are private schools.
That's true.
Well, Lincoln Park's a charter school, I guess. I mean, technically.
Mike, 3A boys.
North Catholic versus Lincoln Park.
And who wins?
North Catholic wins.
North Catholic wins. All right. Going with a local.
Because you guys are wet blankets. Someone's got to pick the local team.
Come on, I'll pick the Trojanettes.
Yeah, well, gee, that's the goal.
Well,
We got one more.
we do.
That's going out on the
2A boys. Derek, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you like here?
So Academy, California.
I'm going to go 1 versus 2 in the final, but I'm going to have 2 beating 1. Sarah Catholic beating Olsh.
Okay, Mike.
Olsh will win. It will beat. I'm going to go with Swickley Academy. This will be different.
I think Swickley Academy defeats Olsh in the finals. Once again, I'm going to have a 3 seed winning. That's my third 3 seed I picked to win the whole thing.
So Wickley's the defending champion in that.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Go with Springdale.
Okay, we will go on to.
Springdale's good.
Always a fun thing to pick. We did this for the football players. We may as well do this for the basketball players also. Who do you guys think is going to be our last team standing? We're just talking Whitfield. We're not talking district 9 to 10 schools here. In terms of the Whitfield playoffs, Mike, who's our last team standing?
Well, I have a number of teams going to the final. So.
Now keep in mind, this includes the state playoffs. Because some of these teams, our last team standing in the playoffs.
Oh,
period.
they're
Last
Catholic
team standing.
girls. There's no doubt. They're getting. I think they're getting to the state championship game.
Derek?
I think, on the boys' side, I think our last Whitfield team standing will be Mars, but overall, North Catholic girls.
Okay.
I have Mars boys losing in the Whitfield championship game, but obviously getting the state playoffs. But North Catholic girls, they're going to make a big run, I think.
I think North Catholic girls win the Whitfield, but I think they get upset in the state playoffs. And I think our last local team standing in terms of WPIAL teams in the state playoffs will be the Mars boys.
Yeah. Who's going to knock North Catholic off? Homer Center.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. You can. Well,
Ferndale.
It actually happens quite a bit. If you look at the high school basketball playoff history around Western PA, the Whitfield champion and even sometimes runner-up oftentimes loses in the first or second round of the state playoffs.
Last year, Newcastle, and everybody knows how good Newcastle boys are. They lost in the state quarters to Sharon.
Yeah,
there you go.
There's a bit of a come down in terms of the intensity of the Whitfield finals compared to those first and second round state games.
And
They're not as the atmosphere is not the same, and the intensity is not the same.
and if you don't win the WPIAL, you can turn around and make a run last year like Mars girls did. So it goes both ways too.
Okay, our final segment, the question, what stands out to you about the brackets in general? You can pick any bracket, any subject, any team. Mike, we'll start with you. What stands out to you about the WPIAL brackets or about any one of our local teams involved?
Well, again, what stood out to me was 6A boys. It's stacked at the top. Butler is one of the best teams and got the 5th seed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bracket I'm most anxious to see what happens. Another thing that sticks out at me is Mars. Can they go back and then can they win the WPIAL? Those two brackets are the brackets I'm going to be most interested in seeing. 6A boys and 5A boys.
Mine is staying in 6A on both ends. Excuse me, for different reasons. One, I'm really curious to see what Butler can put together in the 6A bracket. They got a Connersville team that I think is going to give them trouble. I think they'll survive Connersville. I don't think they're going to blow out Connersville. I think they'll survive them. I think they'll beat them by 8 to 10 points maybe. And then they move into that game with Upper St. Clair, who they were fighting for that 4th seed to start with. That's going to be a battle. But I'm really hoping to see a Pine Ridge and Butler semifinal match. I think it could happen. I would love to see them play a third game. I would love to see that. And then I'm intrigued by the 6A girls just because it's an 18 tournament. I mean, I look at all these teams, and like I said, we went through earlier what it would take for Seneca Valley to win the WPIAL title, the gauntlet they'd have to run through. But all these matchups, I don't think Bethel Park is going to cruise past Seneca Valley at all. I mean, I think they'll beat them, but I don't think they're going to cruise past them. You look at Fox Chapel, Peters Township, NA, Upper St. Clair, Norwood, Mount Lebanon. These are all potentially great first round games. Derek, what stands out to you about these?
Well, I was going to mention 6A boys, but Mike stole my thunder. So I'm going to drop down to, and this is still, this is intriguing for me. 4A girls, number one, just because we have 3 local teams in that bracket, and as you said, you're hoping to see a Pine Richland Butler semifinal at 6A boys. I'm hoping there's a North Catholic Freeport semifinal at 4A girls because
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The first game this year was a lot closer. So much, I think it was like a 15-point game, which for North Catholic's a close game. The second game, Freeport was actually leading at halftime before North Catholic just unloaded on them in the second half. If they meet in a semifinal, I think North Catholic wins, but I'll tell you what, I think they're going to have a battle.
Well, Freeport is itching to get another shot at North Catholic.
Oh, sure they are.
And all 3 of our teams in this bracket are on the same side of the bracket, which is interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see a Freeport knock quarterfinal. I think
That'd be fun too.
That'd be fun too.
Aside from the 2 games that Freeport lost to North Catholic this year, Freeport's 18-2. They've had a heck of a year. Fred Soilis, he's awesome.
A Fred Soilis fan over
For
here.
most of the season, they had four players scoring in double digits. I think it's dropped down a little bit. I don't think they have 4 in double digits now, but they're very balanced. Very balanced offensive team. Sydney Szymanski does get a lot of attention because she's such a great athlete. She kind of runs the show, but Maddie Clark has really picked it up. Harley Holloway is actually playing with an injured knee, but she hasn't let it affect her too much. So Freeport is, like I said earlier, Freeport is one team I think in that bracket that can challenge North Catholic.
Well, whatever winds up happening, upon further review, we'll return to recap the entire playoff picture. We will have a special end of basketball season upon further review program, and we will see you all then.